Now, Wildcat. I'm just going to let you take the floor here because I don't know much about this Matt Garbett fellow. I've never heard his name before, but he's front and center of your Flying Kiwis yarn. He's got Rio Ferdinand dropping a comment on the IG post. Who the fuck is Matt Garbett, and what's he doing? What's he doing to command all this attention, Wildcat?
Well, I'll tell you exactly what he's doing in a second. I do want to chuck out a thing about Hannah Wilkinson first, just a quick 30 seconds, because since the last Flying Kiwis, I've already written the thing for next Flying Kiwis, getting ahead of myself, but since you've still got to wait a few days, it's worth chucking out the old context. Here she's signed with a club in Sweden for the upcoming season, which is starting imminently, so she's got to find a way to get from New Zealand to Sweden, which I don't know what the old New Zealand are up to these days. It might be a little bit tricky. It might take a little longer than it should, but the team called, I have no idea how to pronounce this, but it's spelled Djurgården, which obviously going back to Sweden, this country she played the top flight in for a couple years with Vizio, and then left to go play in Portugal for a season with Sporting. She left Sporting a little bit early in a season. They ended up being cancelled at that point anyway, just a few weeks later when they finally got around to making that decision. She left in order to come home for lockdown, and so, mentioned on a TVNZ thing a couple of weeks ago, she was close to a new move. Well, there's that new move, going over to sign for a top flight team in Sweden. Should be good. It's a league that she's well familiar with, a league she's had a little bit of success in the past, and she's also coming off a good spell of form with Sporting, where she scored a lot of goals, which has always been maybe the one main criticism you'd have of old Wilkie, is that she holds the ball up very well. She's a great physical presence as a striker, maybe doesn't get enough goals to show for that. Scored plenty of goals for Sporting, so that's good form to be taken into Sweden. Now, speaking of Sweden, that's actually where Mathew Garbett happens to be right now. So to break it down for you just a little bit, I'll throw out some facts on the situation, because it's a bit of a weird situation here. Matt Garbett, Ole Academy graduate. He was at the Under-17 World Cup last year. He scored at least one goal in that tournament. He, been playing for Western Suburbs with the rest of the Ole dudes in Central League, winning Central League, by the way. And just one of the top, he's a centre forward, one of the top upcoming attacking players that New Zealand has. Signed after that Under-17 World Cup with the team Falkenbergs in the top flight of Sweden. He's already played twice in the League Cup, they play their League Cup as like a group stage leading into knockouts, and the group stage takes place in the pre-season in Sweden. So he played a couple games off the bench there, and then lockdown hit, so everything had a big old break. They're coming back into action. It might even be this weekend, actually. It is, in fact. It is on Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. He's got a game. Whether he plays or not, we'll see, because he's sort of like a fringe first-team player. But, I mean, he's like 18, so this is his first season as a professional player. But right at the end of lockdown there, he changed agencies. He signed with a new agency called New Era Global Sports, who are based out of England. Immediately after that, within the very next day, and then the very next day after that, there came two articles on a website called Footy Insiders 24/7, a website I was not otherwise familiar with. Seems to be specialists in this kind of transfer gossipy type stuff. First headline: exclusive, evidence sets sights on young centre forward after big development. Second headline: exclusive, Man City sets sights on signing Everton wanted striker after agent deal agreed. Both of those things are referring to the new agent deal. Neither of them mentioning it till about halfway through the articles in which you get words like, where are we? Wonder Kid, rising star, one of the most sought after teenagers in Europe, centre forward sensation. All this transfer gossip type stuff is it just shows it's very formulaic, especially when you get on those kind of sort of blog site type deals where you don't know how much of this gossip is real or what to believe. It seems to me like the major factor of all that is not that Everton might be interested in signing him, not that Manchester City might be interested in signing him. It's the fact that he's changed agencies to an English-based agency who looking at their lists of clients, and you mentioned Rio Ferdinand was quick on the trigger with his Instagram comment about that. Rio Ferdinand seems to be the most like prominent client for this company. He's obviously doing a lot of media stuff these days. I guess that's how you book him, as you go through New Era Global Sports. His brother is also listed on the his brother Anton also listed on the clients list. There's and their cousin Kane as well. So it seems like a bit of a. I'm not sure if there's any kind of ownership deal. I had a little look. I'm not sure if the Ferdinands are putting money into this or if they're just like high profile clients being used to help sell it on to everyone else. No idea, but an interesting situation altogether. I mean, I'm not too bothered about whether Everton are interested, whether Manchester City are actually like whether those things are factual. I will note though that Everton has a number of players, ex and current, who are on the books with this New Era Global Sports. Like there aren't really any superstars there. They seem to be focusing more on the lower leagues and sort of fringe Premier League talent. But I mean, they have a few like Michael Keane. Where are we? Neil Taylor, Ashley Williams. There's Farrah Williams as well from the English women's team. Like, there's a few names who Premier League fans would know. But it suggests to me, I mean, first of all, sign him with a big deal agent is a nice development for a Kiwi centre forward on the rise. It shows he's looking about his future. He's thinking of where like how these things are going to progress for himself. It also shows that. I mean, I'll see what you reckon on this, but it seems to me, right, that the two articles actually linking him with clubs are probably plans from the agency, right? They're almost certainly just little setups because they've signed this guy. They want to build up his profile. They want to, be able to get him moving for a transfer fee at some point down the line. It seems like that's probably what's happening there, is they're just trying to boost him up by putting his name in the same conversation as. Or not only some of the descriptors they use of him. Before he was a dude who even a lot of Kiwi football fans won't really know too much about, and then suddenly he's one of the most sought after teenagers in Europe the day after he signs with a new agency. Seems a little bit fishy there. You can kind of smell the fish in the percolator there. It's just a funny situation. I don't know if you got any thoughts on that. The actual transfer speculation seems to be very much of a plant. The changing agencies, though, that seems a bit more like a statement of intent, which is a pretty cool situation to have a young Kiwi footballer involved in. And
yeah, just to take a slight detour to make a point,
by all means,
the MLBs and they've got their kind of collective bargaining situation. I think there was one recently with NFL players as well, and obviously trying to bounce back from the pandemic, there's financial agreements and all that stuff that has to be sorted out. But it just reminded me of listening to someone like Ryan Russillo or other American podcast people, and a lot of like, you got to kind of suss out like this story is coming from this source, so it's going to have a bias towards the players' union.
Yeah,
or this story is coming from this source, so it's going to have a bias towards the owners. And yeah, I just thought about that when you were talking about like the rumors, the transfer rumors.
Right, there's so much of that with football transfer stuff. You just got to juggle.
Touched on that.
Who's
kind of written about that.
Where's it coming from? Yeah,
it's a bit of a hot mess. So what's your assessment of Matt Garbett as a baller? Like, obviously, him signing to an English agency, as you alluded to, that's setting him up for a rather positive move or a future. And obviously, such an agency would only sign him if he was good or, obviously promising enough. You're not gonna sign a player and whip up a frenzy for some footballing pleb. Like, you're going to do it for a player who you believe can contribute to a professional team. But like, considering me and a lot of other people may not have heard about Mathew Garbett, what's your assessment of him as a footballer, and where does he rank on like Kiwi footballers even, let alone international footballers?
Well, he hasn't He hasn't been involved in an all-white setup yet. That I can. No, I'm pretty sure he hasn't been. I've only seen him play for the under-17s live, other than like outside of highlights and stuff. Don't live in Wellington, so don't get down to any of those Central League or stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, but so speaking on reputation, he's certainly one of the top teenage strikers coming through. That's without doubt, and just the rise he's been on recently is pretty intense as well. Like signing with not just signing with a professional team, but signing with a top flight team in Sweden, and I think there might have been a little connection there involved in terms of the go-between with another famous Ole alumni and Dan Keat, who he might. I'm trying to remember this because it was at the start of the year that this deal was done. I'm pretty sure Dan Keat played for them, so he was probably like back in the day. So it was probably a bit of a go-between there. But I mean, they signed him, so that doesn't make a difference. It's just it's a lot of this transfer stuff is who you know, and it's just about getting your foot in the door. He's got his foot in the door there. He got out of nowhere. You'd think he'd go straight into the under-19s and the under-21s, or however their teams are structured. Maybe it's the reserve team or whatever. But he went straight into the first team, played a couple times off the bench for them, which is a very good sign that he'll be involved in the first team moving forward. But I mean, talking about future speculation for the fella, he's only just signed his first pro deal. He's only played 2 games. He's got to continue to push forward and turn those little subs appearances into maybe scoring a goal or two, and then getting the odd start and just building up his profile that way. But we know already that he's got the media side of things covered. He's got an agent that is going to go out there and bat for him. So if he does the business, it should be. The other thing did I mention this or not? I don't think so. Is basically all of those players from the New Era Global Sports crew of clients, almost all of them based in England or the wider UK. So Garbett automatically, I don't know what his his own heritage is. There's a lot of Kiwi footballers who have an English parent or an English grandparent or whatever, which makes it England therefore is a more feasible option because you can get the work permits and stuff like that, which is always handy. So I don't know what his situation there, but by his choice of agency, it would suggest that if he were a year or two down the line, if he were to move, England seems like a very likely destination just based on adding 1 and 1 together and making 2, you know?